Residential Development Review Board meeting. It is 6:30 on Tuesday, August the 25th, 2020. We have two items on the agenda. First up, we have roll call.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Lawrence Calderon, Department of Sustainable Development. Roll call, Ms. Bostic.
Present.
Mr. Kane.
Present.
Ms. Corregido.
Present.
Mr. Goodman. Ms. Herring. Deborah Neal Marisi. Dr. Barbara Vandermeer.
Present.
Chair Ewing Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum, 6 present, 1 student adjunct member.
Thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Or does anybody want to make any changes, first of all? Hearing nobody wanting to make changes, can someone want to make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, can you do me a favor by saying who did the first and second and by the vote, please?
Okay, Dr. Vandermeer passed the motion, I believe, and Ms. Herron seconded. Is that correct?
No, I think Rick Kane and passed the motion and Hartman second.
Okay, sorry. Rick Kane passed the motion and Dr. Vandermeer seconded. Hartman seconded.
Correct.
All right, we got that straight. Next time I'll write it down. Thank you. Okay, motion passes 6-0. We have an announcement. Staff, can you please read the announcement?
Okay. Section 30-3.4 of the Land Development Code establishes the Development Review Board, including its membership, rules of procedure, and function, powers, and duties. For variances and special permits, the Development Review Board will make the final decision on those applications at the meeting. The Development Review Board acts as an advisory capacity to the City Commission on requests for subdivision reviews. The final decision will be made by the City Commission at a future public meeting. The procedures for an appeal is set forth in section 30-3.5.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the minutes. Do any board members wish to make any edits to last meeting's minutes? Hearing no comments, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes. This is Brent Hartman.
Eureka Bostic, second.
All right, we had a move to approve the minutes by Mr. Hartman, seconded by Ms. Bostic. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And quickly, this is Yvette, staff. I just wanted to remind everyone that we need to make sure that we're doing a roll call vote. We don't need to go back for the, but at least we need to ensure that we're doing it for the petitions.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Future we'll do a roll call vote, and Yvette, you can call the roll call. Next item is old business. Is there any old business? There was none provided. Does anyone have any old business? Hearing none, let's move to the new business. Staff will read the first item into the record.
Petition DB-20-52 miscellaneous. Corey W. O'Gorman, agent for the Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation, owner, review of a density bonus points request for a senior housing development. Zoned RMF 7, multifamily up to 14 units per acre by right, located at 2166 Northwest 55th Boulevard.
Thank you. Could the planner who is in charge of this please make a presentation? Oh, sorry. First of all, I need to ask if any board member has visited the site or had conversations with other people about the petition, including the applicant and other board members. Hearing no comments, assume that nobody has done any of that. So can the planner who's in charge now, please, it's like Mr. Simmons, can you please make a presentation on DB 20-00052 MISC?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Jason Simmons, a planner with the Department of Sustainable Development. What you have before you with petition DB-20-52 miscellaneous is not a common type petition. It's actually a review of a density bonus points request for a property and a project located at 2166 Northwest 55th Boulevard. The proposed development is the Deer Creek Senior Housing Project, which is a 62-unit affordable rental apartment for low-income seniors over the age of 55 with a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. The applicant is requesting approval of a bonus density of up to 19 dwelling units per acre. That's above the base allowed dwelling units by right in this district, which is 14 dwelling units per acre. The development criteria described in the density bonus points manual shall allow increases in development intensity based upon the limits set forth in section 30-4.18. And these increases in intensity are allowed if a developer proposes a project that will result in a development that's sensitive to the unique environmental and developmental needs of the area. And for each criterion met by the developer, certain points shall be credited to the project. The Development Review Board shall be the sole deciding authority on whether or not any objective is met and increased residential density points are awarded. So as far as the location, the subject property is highlighted in yellow. The current zoning for the property is residential multifamily 7. The land area is approximately 3.29 acres. You see the property lies just to the south of the city's Northside Park, as well as the City of Gainesville and Electric County Senior Center. You see the Walmart Supercenter is within walking distance of the site to the northwest, just to the left of the Senior Center. And you see 441 to the right. You have Northwest 34th Street to the left. So under RMF 7, this is the table for permitted density using density bonus points. You'll note that with no points, the maximum residential density allowed in RMF 7 is 14 dwelling units per acre. For this size property, the 3.29 acres, that would mean 46 dwelling units would be allowed. The applicants want to build 62 dwelling units with the project. So with that, they would need a density of 19 dwelling units per acre in order to have 62 units for the 3.29 acres of land. These are just some of the views of the property. The property is currently vacant. It's pretty much forested. You see the public hearing notice signs that were placed. The aerial on the left shows the property from the north. In the foreground, you'll see the parking lot for the Northside Park and the Senior Recreation Center. See the tennis courts and the Senior Center off to the right. And then on the left is a view of the property from basically the south. There you can see the Walmart Supercenter up in the top left corner. These are some sheets from the development plan. The development plan has been under review for a couple of cycles now, sort of in conjunction with this density bonus points request. The arrows are pointing one to the location of the proposed 5-story building. You see the parking spaces are behind the building. Out here is Northwest 55th Boulevard. And the other arrow points to a bicycle pedestrian access way, which provides access from the proposed development into Northside Park. And on the right-hand side is the proposed landscaping plan for the development. So the following slides deal with the criteria involved in the density bonus points request. So first is cross ventilation. That's to moderate hot, humid climates by cooling and drying dwelling units, thus conserving energy. All of the proposed dwelling units will include a mechanical system that will bring fresh air into each unit and meet the air volume requirement. I believe your exhibit 3 or exhibit C has information that the applicants provided concerning this system. The second criteria, and that would be worth 6 points, up to 6 points. The next criteria is a separate pedestrian bicycle access. This is to promote non-auto transportation modes in order to increase transportation choices available to citizens. The bike path to the Senior Recreation Center and Northside Park is shown on the development plan. That was one of the arrows that I was indicating. The path is the main artery that connects the main entry into the building to the proposed parking area, and beyond that into the undeveloped area of the property on into Northside Park. All of the proposed dwelling units are accessed through the main lobby area. The next criteria to be looked at is additional street trees. The landscape plan that they have indicates that there's at least one tree for every 25 feet of street frontage. As far as the next criteria for off-street parking, no off-street parking is located between the front facade of the building and the street. All of the parking is to the rear of the building. The parking area also is not directly adjacent to Northside Park, as it is at least 100 feet away from the park property line, and the area between the parking and the park is to remain in a natural state. That would be worth 17 points. This criteria involves the use of traffic calming and traffic calming features. So the speeds on the development site are designed for 20 miles per hour or less, and traffic flow in front of the building entrance area will be one way to control traffic and slow speeds. The entry driveway into the parking area does shift. It's not a straight line shot. And the parking, it does shift between 55th Boulevard and the parking area. And there's also an island at the first parking row that will calm the traffic and direct the one-way traffic flow. Although there are no internal streets, the driveway and the driveway aisles within the parking area are no wider than 24 feet with a curb radius of 5 feet at the intersection with the entry driveway. The next criteria to look at is compact development. If a project is within a certain amount of feet of certain features, points are awarded. For this project, all of the proposed dwelling units are shown to be located within 2,500 feet of Northside Park, which is a community park, as well as within 2,500 feet of the Senior Recreation Center, which is a community center. Also, the project is within 1,320 feet of the Walmart Supercenter shopping center. They get points because the project would need to be within 2,500 feet of a community shopping center or 4,000 feet of a regional shopping center for points. And let's see, yeah, and they would have to be, which they are within 2,500 feet of a neighborhood park or 5,000 feet of a community park. So they are well within the range of these facilities. For affordable housing, the applicants are indicating that this is an affordable housing project funded through low-income housing tax credits where residents will not pay more than 30% of their income to rent, and that's worth 10 points. As far as the setbacks and build-to lines, the front setback in RMF 7 at this time ranges from a 10-foot minimum from the property line to a maximum of 100 feet from the property line. The proposed building is set back approximately 40 feet to about 63 feet from the property line. The building will be parallel to Northwest 55th Boulevard for 100% of its building facade. Also note that there is a wetland buffer line that encroaches into the property that dictates where the building can be placed. This would be worth 20 points. As far as building height, the criteria is that if it's a non-single family residential area, the building shall be at least 2 stories in height. The proposed building is 5 stories in height. So if looking at those criteria, if they get all the points for all of those criteria, you would have a total points of 112 density bonus points that would allow up to 19 dwelling units per acre. And with the 62 units proposed with this development, that would be about 18.8 units per acre. Now, separate and apart from the density bonus points manual, but within the land development code, there is a building height bonus for development projects that are eligible for additional building stories and the corresponding increase in overall building height. The bonus can be approved based on the provision of certain development improvements that exceed the minimum standards of Article 4. So the current zoning, the RMF 7 district allows up to 3 stories of height by right. The height can go up to 5 stories with the building height bonus. Now, a proposed building can gain additional stories by providing usable open space, tree preservation, structured parking, transit support facilities, undergrounding of overhead utility lines or relocating utility lines, and providing affordable housing. The housing project is a low-income affordable housing project, so it's providing 100% of the units for affordable housing for low-income residents. In the bonus language, if you provide 5% of the project as affordable housing, you get 1 story. If you provide 10% of the units as affordable housing, you get 2 stories. So this project got 2 additional stories for the 5-story proposal that is represented here. So with that, staff is recommending that the board review the application, petition DB-20-52 MISC, for compliance with the density bonus point criteria to grant additional density. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, and I believe the applicants are in the meeting and would like to make a presentation to the board as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Just stay up there at the podium. And does anyone from the board have any questions of Mr. Simmons from the planning point of view? I don't seem to have my little hand up thing. I have one quick question regarding the bicycle path. Is this intended for use by the general public or just by the residents of the building?
Well, the path does go directly from the, I believe, literally the front door of the building into Northside Park. So it will primarily be used by the residents of the building. I don't know whether visitors who are in the park and use the path to go to the building, I don't know whether they would be allowed access or how that would work. I believe the applicants will be able to inform you as to what exactly they had in mind.
Okay, I'll wait on the applicant's presentation and ask that again. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Just speak up because I don't have the little raise hand feature in front of me. Okay, hearing none, do we have a presentation from the applicant?
Stop share.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Chairman and Development Review Board, my name is Corey O'Gorman. I'm the agent for the owner on this request for density bonus on the Deer Creek Senior Housing Project. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, just plan to go through a brief verbal presentation with you. I do have a few brief remarks regarding the density bonus request, but I would like to introduce our team members that are present this evening and available for questions. Attending with me are the owners and the design team. Corey Harris is the Executive Director of Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation. Steve Kirk is President of Rural Neighborhoods. Allison Fettner is Project Civil Engineer, and Ted Hoffman is the Project Architect. As described in the staff report and presented to you this evening, Deer Creek Senior Housing is a proposed affordable rental apartment project for low-income seniors, 55 years and older. The property is located on the north side of Northwest 55th Boulevard, immediately to the south of Northside Park and Senior Center. The project proposes a total of 62 units on 3.29 acres at 19 units per acre. The property is zoned RMF 7, which allows 14 units per acre with no density bonus points and allows 19 units per acre with 98 bonus density points. The city's residential density bonus point manual outlines the 20 bonus objectives that were in your staff report, also describes the related criteria to achieve the objectives and the points for award of those objectives. The manual states that the applicant must provide the information needed to show how the project complies with density bonus for consideration and award by the Development Review Board. The staff report includes these details on how the project complies with the objectives of the bonus points manual. In this particular case, we're requesting an increase from 14 units per acre to 19 units per acre, which requires a minimum of 98 points. And based on the information submitted, the project achieves a total of 112 points. And in that regard, there are several key elements to the design of the project that I'd just like to point out to you in addition to the staff report, or to echo the staff report, which enable the award of points for the specific objectives. And they are first, the adjacency and the pathway connection to Northside Park and Senior Center. The proposed pathway will connect the main building entrance through a preserve area on the north side of the site to an existing pathway at the park. The pathway creates a linkage to active and passive recreation, to the senior center activities, to mass transit, and to the Walmart Center and other commercial located to the west. This also addresses several of the density bonus objectives. The second is the site plan layout. The building is located closest to Northwest 55th Boulevard, with parking to the rear of the building and the parking lot and driveways configured to calm traffic. This configuration addresses several density bonus objectives. The third, of course, is that the project is 100% affordable. This addresses both the density bonus objective as well as the requirement for bonus building height. Based on the information presented to you this evening, we respectfully request the Development Review Board to award 112 density bonus points and approve the increase in residential density from 14 units per acre to 19 units per acre for the Deer Creek Senior Housing Project. At this time, I'd like to introduce Corey Harris from Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation, followed by Steve Kirk from Rural Neighborhoods. And our design team is available to address any questions. Thank you very much for your time, and let me turn it over to Corey Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time, and the committee members. We appreciate the opportunity to present our project before you tonight. You've heard staff recommendation as well as our agent, Corey O'Gorman. NHDC is a local non-for-profit organization that focuses on housing solutions for low and moderate income families. We've partnered with Rural Neighborhoods to develop this 62 units affordable senior housing complex. We're extremely excited about this project. As you know, affordable housing is a major issue in our local community, especially to our most vulnerable population, which are our seniors. And so this project, of course, will not fulfill the great need that we have, but it's there to provide a resource for our seniors to live in a decent, quality, affordable housing complex. And so we're extremely excited about this opportunity. We're extremely excited to bring this to Gainesville. Being a local outfit, we would believe that this project will help leverage us to be able to do some other projects similar to this in our local community. As you can see, by right, we're able to do 40-something units, but we want to maximize the impact to our community by seeing if we can increase that density. And so that's why we're here today to the Development Review Board to get that approval. If you have any questions for me, I'm here. Again, as I mentioned, we're a local not-for-profit organization. We typically focus on single-family homes, but this is our first multifamily project. And so we're excited about the project, and that's all I have at this time.
Thank you.
I don't know whether Steve Kirk, our co-developer, I would like to say anything. Steve Kirk is on the line as well. Steve, you need to unmute yourself if you're on the line.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. My name is Steve Kirk. I'm the president of Rural Neighborhoods, and we too are a nonprofit organization. We are pleased to be able to work with Corey and his group, given their long-term history in the city of Gainesville. What I'd just like to share is both to answer the questions posed by one of the members of the committee, as well as to share with everyone our timetable. Our goal at the moment is that we have plans and permitting. We obviously are going through the density bonus process with you this evening, but our hope is to try to break ground in the fourth quarter of this calendar year. We are on target at this point to close and to begin construction in November of 2020. We anticipate a 12 to 14 month construction process. And so we hope that residents will be able to celebrate Christmas in 2021 in Deer Creek Senior Housing. In regards to the question about pedestrian bicycle access, the density bonus criteria was created to make certain that a majority of the project dwelling units could be directly linked to a pedestrian bicycle path. And so the original design intent is for individuals from our facility to connect to the park and to connect to other bicycle paths from there. That said, the owners have no objection to people from the park using that property, using that bike path to go through our property and connect to our parking and drive to Northwest 55th Boulevard. We would not take action to prevent that, with perhaps the exception, and I believe most likely on the park side of that, there are some potential dusk to dawn issues that might prevent access to the park, and consequently one might not be able to access the park and then go through our property. So we're mostly concerned there with the typical protection of people using the park. Our bicycle path will have some lighting in order to enable people to walk at dusk, but we would not want to encourage public use in those later evening hours. So hopefully that begins to address the issue, and we stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It does address the issue. Now I have a technical question. How wide is the bike path to the park?
I would have to defer to our civil engineer at the moment to tell you what the width is, and if it needs to be any wider, we'll make it a little wider. Alice, I don't know if you know what that dimension is, or Corey.
Do we have a civil engineer there that can answer that question now?
I think Allison is unmuted herself. Allison, can you tell us what the width of the pathway is? Maybe not. I'm not sure it's dimensioned on the plans, but if I recall correctly, we were looking at it as a 5 to 6 foot wide path.
Okay. Sorry, can we get the answer? I mean, okay, I'll just talk to, I looked on the plans and it's not dimensioned on the plans. In these days of COVID, I'm very aware that people are uncomfortable passing next to each other within 6 feet. So I would highly recommend that you update your plans to make it at least 8 foot width. Another thing is if it's going to be bicycles and pedestrians, 5 foot just clearly is not wide enough for a bicycle to pass pedestrians safely. It freaks the pedestrians out. The bicycles can do it, but pedestrians don't like it. And so that's one recommendation that I'd like you to look into if that's okay with you. Do any of the other board members have any comments along these lines? Mr. Howard?
I have another very technical question that may not actually have any significant consequence to it, but I was looking at the application specifically with regard to the additional street trees. At the end of that criteria, it says the last sentence is if at least 50% of the required street trees are preserved, existing mature trees, 4 points shall be awarded under the subjective, otherwise 2 points shall be awarded. And then it looks like there's a request for 5 points to be awarded under that. I don't know if either Mr. Simmons from the city or somebody could address sort of that potential minor discrepancy there.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Based on the layout of the property and the sort of the limitations that the property has as far as street frontage, the applicants did about all they could do under the circumstances as far as providing a certain number of trees per the frontage. One of the provisions of the criteria is that there'd be 1 tree provided for every 25 feet of street frontage. As far as the landscaping goes on the property, the applicants are planting trees at that level of, at that amount.
I guess, Mr. Simmons, my question is, it looks like the options for points awarded for that category are either 4 or 2, based on if it's whether the trees are preserved or whether it's new trees being planted, and then instead of 4 or 2, the application looks like it's requesting 5 points. And so I just didn't understand that, where the 5 was derived from.
In the bonus points manual, if I can find. Yeah, within the bonus points manual itself, and I have it on my computer. I don't think I submitted all of the manual as part of the backup, but there's a table with the amount of points, and for the different objectives, for additional street trees, there's listed 5 points. I think the way the criteria is listed is that that if you're not maybe planting, if you're not planting this number of trees and you're using some of the existing trees, preserving them, that would count as far as your street buffer goes. But if you're preserving some of the trees, then you get 4 points or 2 points, depending on the circumstances. The applicants are actually planting new trees on the site at a rate of 1 for every 25 feet of street frontage. So that's where we were proposing to give them the 5 points as outlined in table 1 of the density bonus points manual.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I can also point out that the plan includes preservation of all the trees within the buffer area on the south side of the site between the building and the Northwest 55th Boulevard. So there'll be substantial preservation of trees as well as new trees.
Okay, Mr. Hartman, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I was just a little confused. I didn't see where the 5 points was an option just under the criteria, but I think that's sufficiently addresses what I was curious about. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Neil Marisi, I notice you're unmuted. Did you have something, question?
I should be off mute now. I do have a question. I have a question regarding the ventilation. My understanding is is there air conditioning? There's not air conditioning in this?
Yes, ma'am, there is air conditioning. The points for the cross ventilation are for a fresh air system that's in addition to the air conditioning system, and it'll provide the cubic feet of fresh air that's required under that criteria per square foot or per cubic feet within each unit.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Do any other board members have any comments for either staff or the applicant? And if you do want to speak, I do have the little raise hand thing here. So down the bottom of your screen, you can go to participants, click on that, and it gives you the option to raise hand, and I'll see it, and then I can just ask you to speak. Seeing no hands raised, now open the item to the floor for public comment. Is there anyone in the public present tonight who would like to speak? All right, I don't see any raised hands.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay, the next is Larry Shuley. Yes, we can hear you, Larry. Do we have anyone from the public?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm actually acting as the bridge between us and the public comment line. For some reason, it was on mute. We do have one comment from Ms. Helen Sconyers. She would like to speak on the topic. Ms. Sconyers, you have 3 minutes if you're on the line.
Yes, sir, I am. I want to know who is going to maintain that private road on Northwest 55th Boulevard. I manage a property down the street, Creekwood Apartments, and we've had to mow it, fill the potholes, pick up the trash, etc., because it's a privately owned road and the city does not maintain it. Is this developer going to help maintain the road in any way? Does it increase use? And will people access the property off the boulevard to get to their apartments? Happen. Hello?
Mr. Kirk?
No, you're still here, ma'am. They're looking for a person to speak on the topic.
This is Steve Kirk. This is Steve Kirk. I'm one of the co-developers of the property. We do plan to access the site from Northwest 55th Boulevard. And so to your question, yes, we will be utilizing it. We have been researching this issue and having discussions with the city on the issue. And it's our intention to do our fair share to certainly maintain and clean up the median associated with our property and to assist other property owners that work along that. So we'll be happy to meet with your property management firm and do our fair share.
Do you want my information now?
Certainly, if you could provide it, that's probably the easiest way. If you could give us your email address.
Sure, it's
like that.
And there's another
Creekwood. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Creekwood apts@cox.net.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schooler, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
None on this topic, sir. No.
Okay, in that case, we'll now close the floor and go on to board discussion. So is anyone from the board like to kick off the deliberation?
I'll start by saying that I am definitely intrigued by the idea of having that mixed use trail. I feel like that's something that's really awesome to see being incorporated into an affordable housing project. I also appreciate that it's 100% affordable. So I would like to voice a lot of support for this. My only question would be, how do we ensure later, once it's complete, like once the project's complete, that those units really are set at an affordable price? Like, does the city, you know, take account of that, or where is that confirmed?
Mr. Chairman, I can at least in part answer that with probably some help from Mr. Kirk. The project is funded through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation tax credit program. There will be a deed restrictions on the property that will require that all of the units remain affordable for, I think, 20 years, Steve, or 30 years, 50 years, 50 years.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there anyone else from the board who would like to give an opinion? Ms. Newman-Reese?
Thank you. I think it's very exciting to have affordable housing going into this area and to be so close to the stores and accessibility. Gainesville's desperate for affordable housing, and particularly not far out, so they are able to move around the city. So it's a great project that you've taken on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the board that would like to speak at this point? Okay, I'll put in my 2 bits worth. I've already talked about the path. I think it's looking at the criteria need to achieve the points for this particular aspect of it. There is the wording as the path shall be dedicated for perpetual use as a non-motorized transportation corridor. So to me, that does imply that the public in general can use it, and I see that the petitioner is open to that suggestion. I see no problem with putting a sign up on the Northside Park saying open from dusk to dawn or whenever the park hours are open. I would suggest, however, that it be upgraded to a multi-use path, just so that everyone who's using it can be comfortable. Otherwise, they're just really a 5-foot sidewalk doesn't cut it for anybody, even pedestrians. And these days, definitely not. So I'd say at least 8 foot wide or maybe more, depending on what. I realize it's going to have to be a boardwalk because it goes through a wetland. However, I think that would make it much more attractive and would open it up. And I really like this idea overall. I'm very much in favor. If we can add the criterion that the path becomes 8 feet and accessible to the public, I see no problems with it. I think it's a great project and a very good location for this type of area. We need for this type of project. We need affordable housing. So I would be very much in favor of seeing this pass.
I'd just like to comment and echo some of the thoughts of some of the other board members, that it does seem like a great project to add some additional affordable housing, particularly in this area, Gainesville. I think my only concern is something that's just outside of what our purpose is here, but that intersection between 55th Boulevard and 34th Boulevard, there's no stoplight at that intersection, and if there's 60 additional units, there's certainly going to be a lot more traffic exiting this development onto 34th Boulevard, which is a pretty heavily trafficked road, and I don't think that there's even a median there, right where that gas station is that intersects with on the other side of 34th Boulevard, right across from 55th Boulevard. And I think it's outside of what we're here to do and what we're here to discuss, but I do have some concerns about that, but I don't think that that's really what we can be addressing today.
Yes, I'd agree that with both of what you just said. This 55th Boulevard seems like it's a private road. We already heard from one of the other neighbors of this property that maintenance is an issue. It's a very convenient shortcut between 13th Street and 34th Street, which means that cars tend to go too fast along it. There's no striping, there's no bike lane, there's no sidewalks. It's sort of almost a dangerous thoroughfare. And I don't know whether we could kick something off with the plan board or take it further up. Just recommend that staff look at this whole corridor. I agree, the third where it bumps out on 34th Street. There's no median. There's no left turn lane there on 34th Street. You just have this, I think this might even be a double yellow line. But there's a lot of people that live back there. So I don't know what we can do at this point, but I think we can just raise our concerns that this is something that staff should maybe look at.
Anyone else have any comments? We're losing him, so while he takes care of whatever he needs to do, I'd like to have the board consider, the board can make a formal request through the department, the planning department, for the public works is who you want to talk to about increasing the multi-mobility and also the safety of that road. And you can certainly attach it. There is no power of the board to influence what they're going to do, but the fact that the board is conscious of that need and that it's a needed neighborhood transportation method, and also that it's going to be increasing with this complex going in, that's what I would recommend. I also agree with you, Dr. Thomas, that having the sidewalk be much wider. Again, we are rapidly coming into multi-modality of travel with scooters, motorized, what I used to call a scooter with no seat on your feet, and besides walking. So I think the wider that path can be, the better it can be, and also possibly having a line down the middle to make it clear. So otherwise people run off into the grass, things get dicey, especially if it's open to the public.
Yes, that's a good point about the scooters. You need to have enough room for 2 scooters to pass comfortably, because this is a senior living facility and there may be some scooters and residents that have scooters. And a line down the middle is a great idea. Okay, does anyone else from the board have any comments on this petition?
Mr. Chair, this is Lawrence with the Department of Sustainable Development. The petition before you is really a request for density, which affects a number of things that you have been talking about, which is ideal. However, we should not lose sight of the fact that this is an affordable housing project, and we should minimize the amount of things that would increase the price of those units in this area, but still be concerned about the development standards. The development also has to go through development plan review through staff. I don't know that they're asking for any variances, besides this one, but it would be through staff. And we will take into consideration a lot of the standards that you talked about in terms of the width of the sidewalk. We'll try to go with code requirements and preservation of trees. And I heard Steve saying that he's willing to work with the applicant about shared driveway and making it accessible. So I think that the message that you sent with asking staff to take these things into consideration is right where you need to be. And as you vote, take into consideration that affordable housing comes from those small changes that we're allowed to make, but not to degrade the development, but to encourage quality type development. And hopefully we will do that in development plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. Are there any more comments from the board? If there are no more comments, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. My name is Barbara Vandermeer, and a wise person told me once, there's really no need to talk at a meeting unless when you get to the end, there's something that nobody has said that you think needs to be said. So I'd like to just take a minute to say that having now, I think 6 years served on citizen boards related to the Department of Planning, how much I appreciate their hard work, their sincerity, their determination to be a benefit to our citizens, and how much I appreciate my fellow board members, folks that I've gotten to know a little bit over the years. This is a crazy, crazy time. And I just want to say thank you all for making it feel just a little bit more normal. I also want to say that I don't often get to just express unqualified support for something. And this subject of affordable housing, we go through it again and again and again and again. And to just be able to see a project that addresses it directly is a joy. So, having heard the information that's been presented regarding petition number DB2052, the Deer Creek Senior Housing petition. And being convinced that the applicants have met the criteria that are required to be given this award, I would like to move that their request be approved. Specifically, I think the numbers are 112 density bonus points and 19 dwelling units per acre.
Dr. Vandermeer, could you just add the basis for that? Maybe you could just say something like based on staff's presentation of meeting the findings.
Yes, based on the staff's excellent presentation, meeting the findings that are required. I've never been able to make a motion after all these years, and I just appreciate the chance to ramble through with your help.
Thank you. That's good enough.
Yay!
I'd like to second that motion. Thank you.
All right, the motion has been made by Dr. Vandermeer, seconded by Ms. Neil Marisi. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Aretha Bostic?
Aye.
Rick Kane?
Aye.
Sophia can't vote, but Brent Goodman?
Aye.
Rebecca Herring?
Aye.
Deborah Neal Marisi?
Aye.
Dr. Vandermeer?
Aye.
Chair Ewan?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, you have an approval.
The motion passes 7-0. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It's an excellent project. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to the next item now. Could staff please read the next item into the record?
Petition DB20-64 VAR, John Parker, owner, requesting a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 feet to 3 feet to allow construction of a pavilion and a deck on property zoned RSF1 single family residential, 3.5 dwelling units per acre, located at 3752 Northwest 20th Place.
Thank you. I suppose I need to ask again if any board member has visited the site or had conversations with other people about the petition, including the applicant and other board members. In silence, I'll say no. Do we have a staff planner that can give a presentation on this particular item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes, just a moment as I try to. What do I do here? How do I get to? How do I?
I empathize with Jason because when you have to do those two things at the time, it takes a little bit of time to transition from one to the other. Thanks for patience.
Oh, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is petition DB-20-64 VAR. It's a variance request to reduce the rear yard setback for an accessory structure at 3752 Northwest 20th Place. So the subject parcel is a corner lot with the front orientation of the house facing Northwest 20th Place and the side street yard facing Northwest 38th Street. The lot is approximately 12,564 square feet in size, and it's within the West Villa subdivision. This is a subdivision that lies north of Northwest 16th Boulevard on Northwest 37th Boulevard, which transitions into Northwest 20th Place. It's a small subdivision with about 21 lots, ranging in size from a little over 10,000 square feet to over 16,000 square feet. So the subject property includes a single-family dwelling, about 1,500 square feet of heated space, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. There's also an accessory storage structure, a concrete slab, a deck, partially constructed pavilion, and walkways, all of which are in the backyard. The zoning for the property is residential single-family 1. So in that district, the rear yard setback for the principal structure is 20 feet. It's 7.5 feet for an accessory structure. Now in the staff report and advertised, the revised request was for a setback of 3 feet from the rear property line. But while this was being prepared to go out, we got a revised boundary survey of the property, and had to make a little revision. So the revision request now is a setback of 2 feet from the rear property line. This slide shows the general location. Again, it's residential single family 1, about in acreage, it's about 0.29 acres in land area. You see Northwest 16th Boulevard is the main arterial in the area. The property is right across the street from the Congregation B'nai Israel, and it's not far from the Thornbrook and Millhopper shopping areas. Here's some scenes of the property. You have a couple of aerials. At the top, you have the property outlined in yellow. The bottom is the same view without the outline, so you can have a little better view of the house within the trees. The zoning map shows that all of the properties in this area are zoned RSF1. And you see the notice sign for the public notice requirements. So this slide shows the site plan that was included in the application for the variance, and also a shot of the boundary survey that came in within the last week or so. So in yellow for the site plan, at the top of the drawing, you see what's shown as a covered pavilion with the slab, and to the right of it is the deck. That's where they want to place these accessory structures. And the boundary survey indicates that it's approximately 2.1 feet from the edge of the slab to the actual property line. And here's a sort of a closer up view of the boundary survey. You see right at the very top, you have the concrete pad, and adjacent to it is the wood deck, and they are approximately 2 feet away from the property line. Now, here are some pictures from the backyard. You have 8 pictures here. Now, as you can see, the pavilion is already partially constructed, and you also have a deck. The pavilion is shown to be placed over the existing 12 by 12 slab underneath. So you see there's the deck adjacent to the pavilion area. You see how it's situated within the backyard of the property. On the picture on the right-hand top corner, you see the backyard and how close the accessory structures are to the back of the house. You see some walkways right around that condenser unit. Here's some other pictures on the bottom showing just more of the backyard space. So as far as an explanation, the applicant is proposing to construct a pavilion with an adjacent deck in the rear yard of the dwelling, placed at a setback of 2 feet from the rear property line. There's an existing concrete slab, 12 feet by 12 feet, that was installed by a previous owner. And that slab was placed approximately 2.1 feet from the property line. Also, the applicant wants to place the deck in the pavilion onto the existing slab, feeling that it's the most feasible location for the pavilion. As you saw in the pictures, there are also some concrete walkways that lie to the south of the slab, between the slab and the house. There's some additional space in the yard, but a lot of that space lies under a 220-volt electrical feeder power line, which would create an unreasonable danger since GRU does not allow structures to be placed under their utility lines. And again, as you saw, the proposed deck and part of the pavilion have already been constructed. So some of the key issues with this property in general. One is that the house itself is set back further within the yard than adjacent homes, providing less backyard area for accessory structures. The concrete slab, the 12 by 12, was installed by the previous owner along with the concrete walkways that are present in the rear yard. And the slab was placed approximately 2 feet from the property line, and it also had a previous pavilion structure on it with a previous owner. The placement of the pavilion and the deck elsewhere in the backyard would be problematic because of the existing walkways and the 220-volt electrical feeder power line. GRU does not typically want structures located below their power lines. And this rear setback encroachment issue has existed for several years on the property and thus far has not resulted in negative impacts to adjacent property or the neighborhood. So in looking at a variance, the board has to establish findings that the request demonstrates the following: that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. The special conditions and circumstances unique to the site are that the house is set back further within the yard than adjacent homes on the street, providing less backyard area for accessory structures. The installation of the concrete slab was done by the previous owner, and you also have the presence of the 220-volt electrical feeder power line through the backyard. Now, as you will see on the next slide, the distance from the front property line to the edge of the front porch is approximately 49 to 50 feet. Now, the plat for the West Villa subdivision indicates that for this lot, there is a 25-foot front yard setback from the property line. And then the house is set back another 24 to 28 feet from that setback line. The adjacent right-of-way, Northwest 20th Place, is relatively large with 70 feet of width compared to the typical 50 feet of width for most local streets in like a subdivision setting like this. With the addition of the wider than normal right-of-way for a local street, the front yard is approximately 75 feet from the edge of pavement to the front of the house. So that with all the area in the front, this means there's considerably less space in the back, where it appears that the distance from the garage to the north property line is approximately 25 feet, which meets the 20-foot rear setback requirement for the RSF1 zoning district for a principal structure, but it doesn't necessarily leave a lot of space for a backyard with accessory structures. Also complicating things is that the yard is limited by the presence of a 10-foot public utilities easement that's at the very back of the yard. There's the existing 12-foot by 12-foot concrete slab in the backyard that was previously used for a pavilion structure by the previous owner. That slab was constructed in the setback and the public utilities easement, and was a unique existing condition when the current owner purchased the property. So the picture at the top, you can, and this is an old street view, but the yellow or orange line sort of showing where the house on the lot to the east, the front part of that house compared to where the front part of the subject property home is located. You see to the right where the paved area of Northwest 20th Place is located. On the bottom two pictures, one shows the side street view of the property. And then you can also see in the third picture a shot of the previous pavilion that was placed over the pavilion by a previous owner. One of the other findings is that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the action of the applicant. The conditions and circumstances are unique to the property and the neighborhood. The special conditions are not self-created. The slab was constructed by a previous owner. The next finding is that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this section to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. So a decision based on the merits of the evidence and information presented at the public hearing is considered a sound decision and not one that is based on conferring special privilege. The next finding to look at is that literal enforcement of the provisions of the Land Development Code or building chapters would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the Land Development Code or building code. So this is a fairly sizable lot. There is room on the property for placement of a pavilion in the deck that can meet setback requirements. However, the placement would not be in the typical location of a backyard that would afford more privacy than the front or the side yard. The placement of the deck and pavilion are limited on this property due to the unique circumstances as we are discussing tonight. The next finding is that the variance requested is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The variance request is the minimum required if the existing slab is to be used for the pavilion. In addition, the applicant will need the completion of a release of the platted easement from GRU to accommodate the project. If the public utilities easement had existing utilities within it, the proposed pavilion and the deck would not be allowed in the easement. GRU would have denied building permit and this request for a variance. But after reviewing the proposal, the affected utility departments have indicated that a partial release of the platted easement can be approved. So their staff is working on what's called a release of the platted easement, and that will have to be approved and in hand prior to approving, the variance and the building permits associated with that variance. Another finding is that the variance has to be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the regulation at issue in the Land Development Code, and such variance will not be injurious to the abutting lands or to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. So the requested variance involves basically a 5.5 foot encroachment into the rear setback, placing the structure 2 feet from the property line. And in your backup, we have a letter from the adjacent property owner at 3721 Northwest 21st Place. It was written that they have no objection to the variance. They don't feel that the variance will be injurious to their land, and the proposal is sufficiently removed from the public right-of-way that it does not appear to create any significant negative impacts on the neighborhood. That rear setback encroachment has existed for several years and, as stated earlier, has not resulted in negative impacts to the adjacent single-family property or the neighborhood. So with that, staff recommends that the board review the application, petition DB-20-64 VAR, for compliance with the criteria for granting a variance. And also noting that if the variance and the release of easement application are approved, the applicant has 6 months to implement the variance. Failing implementation of that, the approval becomes null and void and will require a new application. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
All right, does anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Simmons?
Yes, I have a few questions. When was the home purchased and how big is that lot?
The lot is about 12,500 square feet in land area, or about 0.29 acres in size. I would have to defer to the applicant about the purchase date. I don't know if he's on the meeting call or not.
Okay, well, I have one other question. Was the slab approved in a previous request? I know it's on the property, but was it approved for variance in a previous request? Or was it just done?
Mr. Chairman, I have limited experience with the Boards of Adjustment or anything, but not, to my knowledge, it was not approved through any action of a board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foster.
The chair, this is Lawrence. Please bear in mind that for certain things like a slab, it may not need to meet setback requirements. It has to qualify as a structure, and if it doesn't, the applicant can get a permit for it, irrespective of setback.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of that. Did you just say that a variance was not required for this particular slab?
A slab, at-grade slab, does not have to meet setback requirements unless it meets the definition of a structure, which means 4 inches above grade. So the applicant can actually pour a slab all the way to the property line without the benefit of meeting setback requirements. If, however, it's a structure, a foundation for a structure, then the structure has to meet setback requirements, and we don't know whether that slab had a structure.
And so as we look at it today, it does they're looking to add a structure to it. That's why we're here for the variance.
Oh, Jason can answer that question.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, they want to put the pavilion and the deck in that area. Those are structures and they would need to meet setback requirements. And they would need a variance from this board in order to get a variance from the 7.5 feet typical setback for an accessory structure.
My last question is, what is a partial release of the platted easement?
Mr. Chairman, board members, as you might be able to see from the survey, there's a 10-foot public utilities easement on the northern 10-foot width of the property. Typically, that means that's an area where GRU would have some of their utility facilities located in. And if that were the case, then we wouldn't be here before you today because they would typically not allow structures to be constructed in their PUE. However, when they saw this project, they had to investigate to see whether there were actually utilities underneath the PUE on this property. Apparently they went out to the site, looked around and looked at their maps and determined that there was no GRU facilities within this stretch of the public utilities easement. Therefore, they have something that they call a release of the easement. It's an application that the property owner has to fill out and send it back to GRU, have a survey done and so forth. And my understanding is it would allow construction of certain things that normally wouldn't be allowed in a PUE because they're releasing this easement because there's no facilities underneath. But I believe the applicant has applied for it. We're waiting on GRU staff to finalize that application and approve it, and that would have to be approved prior to issuing any kind of permits related to this project.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that Ms. Neil Marisi had her hand up.
Yeah, I'm struggling if the previous pavilion was pulled down by the owner and then was in replacement, why it suddenly come to the attention of this board? Other than the obvious is that it's out of code.
Mr. Chair, this is Lawrence. Typically, if we have a situation like this where there is encroachment in the setback, especially for single family, it's generally considered an existing non-conforming structure. And the only time that we would apply the variance on setback requirements would be if the applicant demolishes the structure, or if it is removed and a new one is placed, then the new one has to meet the standards. So in essence, if the applicant had a structure on there and he was making repairs to it without moving further into it, we would not have brought that to you. But in this case, it's torn down and he's replacing it, so he would need to meet the variance requirement.
Mr. Calderon, I have a question for you. I still haven't had my question answered as to whether the applicant actually took down the structure, because the house has clearly been recently purchased and painted and upgrades done. the original survey map wasn't under the current owner's name. So I'm curious as to what the true status on this project is and where it started.
Mr. Chair, it might be a good time to let the applicant make his presentation, and then we can, come back with addressing those.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else from the board have a question for staff before the applicant gives the presentation? If not, we're ready for the applicant's presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is John R. Parker. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my petition. Ms. Marachi, I'm the oldest son of my father. My father was the previous owner of this house. I was raised in this house. When I retired from Central Florida, I decided to buy the house when I was taking care of my father's affairs after his death. You're correct. I've been redoing the entire house. He built and the house was purchased and built. He was the primary owner, first owner, and I'm the second owner. This house was built in 1960. He, during the course of his lifetime and after I had left the house, went out in the backyard and built that pavilion. To my knowledge, there was no request, no building permit, no request for variance, nothing like that. So this is I'm doing that. I started actually building it knowing the slab was there, and I was the one that tore down the original one because it just was awful looking. And I got about halfway in it and just thought, I better check. And I checked, and of course I was in violation. And so basically I stubbed my toe. You see in various stages of completion, the deck and the pavilion that I have trying to build, and I stopped it because I want to make sure that this is approved by the city or not. I just want to do it the right way. I don't want to violate any of the ordinances, anything like that. So I don't know whether that answers your question, but anything else that you'd like to ask me, I'm open for whatever. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. I appreciate your candor, and I understand the difficult position you're in. So my question is there a fence behind the back of the property?
There is, yes, ma'am. It is 2.1 feet from the slab. I built that fence recently. That's a new fence, if you're referring to the photographs. And I built that fence exactly where my father's previous fence was, but it was kind of in shambles. So when I replaced it, based on conversations I had with him years ago, he wanted to make it clear to me that the fence was a full 1 foot inside the property line on his property. And, I went with that. And so originally the site plan that I submitted for, along with the application, is an error. And that's why that occurred. I relied on his conversation with me. Based on the new boundary survey, I realized that I was in error. And I notified Mr. Simmons on the 18th, I believe, of August, once I kind of really realized that what was going on. And so I share the fence with Mr. Peterson, who is the adjacent property owner. I built the fence and he was able to, build his fence to it. But that fence is pretty much right on the line, property line.
Thank you. I understand. Yeah, this is a between and betwixt situation. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Do any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Parker. I think you sufficiently answered a lot of the questions I had, which was really timeline and why we're here now with a partially built pavilion. So you answered those questions, which I appreciate. So evidently you have gotten the approval of your neighbor, who would be the only one really that would be most adversely impacted. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir. He I actually called him and asked him if he would in fact sign a written statement. He did. You should have that. It's Exhibit 15 in my application. His name is John Peterson. And that particular deck, I can't tell you how long he's lived here, Mr. Kane. I can tell you though that there's never been a problem with the fence or with the slab, or with my father's previous pavilion, if you want to call it that. That was coverings of sorts. Yeah. But he has no objection whatsoever, no problem with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other board members have a question of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, I'll now open the floor for public comment. Mr. Schuler, is there anyone on the line that would like to give a public comment?
No callers on this subject, sorry.
Okay, thank you. In case you close. Yes.
After you go, just for information, I don't know how useful it might be, but the owner said that they built the shed in 1960 and it was annexed into the city in 61, which means that anything that we annex, we would consider it an existing non-conforming situation.
Thank you. That's very useful information.
I didn't hear the end part. What did he say? He would consider it what?
An existing non-conforming situation if the structure was there. We annexed, it was built in 60 in the county. We annexed it in 61. It means that when we annex it, we accepted all the structures as they were placed as existing non-conforming.
So basically the new building is, ask me if this is correct, is the new building in exactly the same footprint as the old building?
Well, I can't answer that question. I think that's Jason would have to address that.
Yes, could Jason address it or the applicant address it? Is the size of the structure the same as the size of the original structure?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My father and I, when I was a teenager, added on to what was a 7-room home. We added a double garage, some storage areas in the back, a mud room, a washroom, and kind of a workroom. Re-roofed it, and we tore down an existing carport. The particular pavilion that my father built that well after the incorporation by the city of Gainesville of that property. So it was the slab as well as his pavilion were built after that actually occurred. So my father's a good guy, but I'm telling you right now, I don't think he talked to anybody before he built those things. So.
Okay, thank you. So the building was built after 61, is that correct?
That's correct. And the addition was built, good gracious, let's see, I was in 52, probably in the 70s. And that particular, in fact, that pavilion that he built probably was late 70s, early 80s. And that's a guess now. I really don't know. I never saw him do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else from the board? Any questions for the applicant? Okay. I already closed the floor there. So now we close the floor. It's time for the board to discuss these items. So someone like to kick this one off? Yes, thank you, Deborah.
Well, this is difficult because, you know, technically, Mr. Parker is in the middle of renovating this property very nicely, and it's got a long history behind it. The slabs clearly have been there for quite a while. My suspicion is the codes have changed in the last 30 years, quite bluntly, because I've seen a lot of older cases where this is the case. So at this point, particularly since the neighbors said it's okay, and it's a very isolated piece on that corner, I would support this variance. It's just sort of being in a mud hole. You know, you're not quite right, but you're not so far off either. And I personally think a little judicious forgiveness, and for the other reasons that have already been outlined, special concerns, etc., are valid. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the board? Mr. Kane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deborah, I agree with you. It is a tough one. I know based on previous meetings and issues, we're always somewhat reluctant to, quote, set precedent, but I think there are oftentimes extenuating circumstances, and I feel like, you know, in this case, as Mr. Parker has described, there are some background involved in history, which makes, to me, you can take somewhat of a reasonable perspective too. And I think based on staff's report and what I've heard from Mr. Parker, I'd certainly be inclined, and not least of which is there's no objection from this property, adjacent property owner, which really would be the only one impacted. I would be certainly inclined to support this variance.
Thank you.
So this is Eureka. This one is a hard one because the owner has 2.9 acres, and that structure could easily be moved to comply with the regulation, if you will.
Madam, Mr. Chairman?
There's more than enough room for, I'm sorry?
Mr. Simmons?
Yes, just a brief correction. It's 0.29 acres.
0.29.
Yeah, it's not an acre. It's 0.29 acres. So it's less than an acre. It's less than a half acre.
Thank you for that correction. I don't know. I don't want to get in the habit of approving things that where folks just kind of do what we want to do in the Wild Wild West. We just do what we want to do to our own property, and the rules don't have to be applied because it was about 20 years ago, so we don't have to comply. But at the same token, the current neighbor right now says it's not an issue, but if that house is sold, then it's an issue for the next neighbor. Now, and I hate to travel that road of what if, but then, will we approve it for the whole community? Is that the intent for that particular community? And so I'm grappling, I'm on the line, but I don't know.
Thank you. Ms. Neil Marisi was first.
Well, I just want to respond to that, and I certainly appreciate and agree with having to be extremely cautious when we look at situations. But number one, the main problem would be noise. And yeah, we have noise interference coming in on this. I don't know what it is. But...
Yes, there's some humming from somewhere.
Yeah, it's odd. Well, if you can understand me, I'll continue.
Yeah, could everyone else just mute?
The main problem is if there are problems in the future, it's going to be a noise ordinance issue or trespassing or something that would involve the powers that be. And the reason the ordinances are all in place are to avoid that, obviously, while you have setbacks and differences. And it is, it's very hard sometimes when you're in a murky situation, and this is very murky. But my feeling is there's not a real precedent since the slab was there, even though a slab by itself does not qualify as being over the line. But I am feel like being generous today. And yes, Mr. Parker could move it. But again, it's just an effort to be accommodating. We're not really out to be the police here. You know, we are trying to do everything we can to encourage people to do it correctly. And there have been times when people have done presentations and they were not accepted. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Mr. Thompson?
Go ahead, I was muted. Dr. Vander, you're up.
Well, as I understand our code's intent as it relates to things like this, it is to provide adequate space between structures to support the sociological climate and culture of the neighborhood. And to my mind, since this Mr. Parker's father has owned this house since its inception, and now Mr. Parker owns this house, the sociological climate and culture of the neighborhood is probably well understood. And so for me, I think the spirit of the code would be that we just not overlook this, but that we support it as a continuation of a proud history of being a participant in the sociological climate and culture of that neighborhood.
Thank you. Was that all you were about to say? I sort of interrupted you there. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a very valid point, and it's sort of, I think it's where we come in. I'm right there with all of you skating on thin ice. It's obviously, you know, it doesn't satisfy the code. It just doesn't. And the history doesn't line up for satisfying the code. It was built after 1960, so we can't use that. However, that's why we're sitting here. You know, we're the variance board. We decide on things like this on a case-by-case basis. I think it should be clear to anybody out there that's listening to this thinking, oh, I can now build, you know, an outhouse on the property line and get away with it. And no, you can't, because this is a very difficult situation. The petitioner has gone through have to jump over a lot of hurdles to get to this point. And so we are in judgment. Aretha, I hear you, and I'm there with you as well. You know, we can't just say this is a precedent, so everyone in the neighborhood will now do it. Well, it's been there forever, ever since the house was built. And as Dr. Vandermeer just said, that this has sort of defined the sociological essence of this neighborhood. And so along the same lines, I'd like to read the code language that sort of addresses this point. Specific to this variance, a variance intended to provide functional and reasonable use of the property would be in harmony with the overall character of the neighborhood and would not be injurious to the abutting lands or to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. The rear setback encroachment has existed for several years has not resulted in negative impacts to the adjacent single-family property or the neighborhood. That's what staff wrote about this, and I agree with that. I think that we have the crucial piece of evidence when I was reading this was the letter from the neighbor. The neighbor has been there for quite a while. This neighbor in particular is happy with it. I think the last meeting, we approved something similar to this, an outdoor pavilion between a house and an existing garage that by code wasn't allowed. You were not allowed to connect the house to the garage because then it's the primary residence is back to the setback. And we allowed that. And if you look at the use and the reasons that we gave for approving that was, well, this was in a similar sort of neighborhood to this. The property owner wanted to have reasonable use of their property by using the outdoor space. And these days, we all appreciate how important it is to be able to socialize outside. So I think there's sort of a COVID factor that can be sort of added into this particular petition at this point in time. So my attendance would be, given the caveat that this is not a precedent by any means. I think the applicant has been very forthwith with what has happened and confessed to the fact that it wasn't done quite right according to code. But I'm sort of leaning towards approving this. So I guess that's my piece. Does anybody else like to give a counterpoint or add to this particular? Mr. Hartman.
Yeah, I was just going to add, in addition to many of the good points that have been made already, I think one of the other factors that we're supposed to consider is sort of unique characteristics of the property. And so in addition to the unique characteristic of the property of this slab being previously there, there's also that 220 volt feeder line that you can see it in some of the pictures and in some of the diagrams that sort of runs diagonally across a significant portion of the backyard. And according to Mr. Simmons' presentation, structures are not, I guess GRU frowns upon and doesn't like to have any structures beneath those feeder lines. And so it sort of prevents this structure from being built in many of the different other areas of the backyard. And so I think based on Mr. Simmons' presentation, it does seem to meet so many of the factors that we're supposed to consider and whether or not to grant a variance. And so I would lean towards approving this variance for that reason, in addition to the many other good reasons that other people have raised previously.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, maybe it's time for somebody to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say that I am so proud of you to hear the way you discuss this issue. And that is what your role is, to look at all of the elements and tie them with the criteria. And I think you did this tonight. And whatever your decision is, I think you've set the stage well.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. I think we have the approval of staff.
So, Mr. Chair, I make the motion to approve petition DB 20-0064, the variance to reduce the rear yard setback for an accessory structure at 3752 Northwest 20th Place.
I'll second. Rick Kane.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Bostic, seconded by Mr. Kane, to approve the petition. We have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chair, just before I would kind of put a little more pressure on Ms. Bostic to kind of state, the basis for that, either it met all the findings or something, not just.
I didn't hear him. What did he say?
I'm saying that Ms. Bostic should probably set the basis for granting the variance something like it meets all the findings.
Okay, absolutely. Yes, the variance, I make the motion to approve the variance because it meets the requirements as set forth in our, and it also meets the special conditions and circumstances unique to the site.
That's good enough.
What else I need to put in there, Lawrence?
That's good enough.
That's good enough. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm chair. I can't make a motion. You know, I'd love to, but
Okay.
that was a
trying to
joke.
protect you. Just trying to protect you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, do you still second?
Still
All right.
second.
All right. So if staff is happy with the motion, the motion is being moved and seconded. Now could we have a roll call vote on the amended motion?
So, Ms. Bostic,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
Mr. Goodman,
Aye.
Ms. Herron,
Aye.
Deborah Neal Marisi,
We didn't hear you.
Deborah Neal Marisi.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Vandermeer,
Aye.
Chair Thompson.
Aye. The
Mr.
motion passes 7-0. So that ends this particular item. Next item is any board discussion items. So the only remaining item is if someone could move for adjournment.
I just want to announce to you that October we have to do the regular election of officers. And so I am not, we may have a meeting in September, but then we get to October. So just be thinking about that.
Also, Lawrence, could you update them on the discussion we had earlier about the comp plan?
Oh, well, I think you're more up to date on it than I am. Can you do it for me?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't in the meeting this morning.
So we, I know that you're really, this is about the update of our comprehensive plan. We have a consultant currently working with us to update the comprehensive plan. And I know that you are not directly involved, but you are the beneficiary in terms of the ordinance that comes out of the comprehensive plan. And several times you have had to meet with the plan board. So they're going to make a presentation to the city plan board. And I asked that they think about meeting you at some point in time, either September or October, to just kind of share with you the vision of the comp plan and how we're moving forward. So just be thinking about that.
Thank you. Look forward to that.
Yes.
Okay, are there any more items from staff? Discussion points or from the board? Someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Do we need a roll call vote on adjournment?
Just
everybody raise your hand.
Or you can stay there.
Thank you very much.
All right. Meeting is adjourned at 8. The meeting is adjourned at 8:23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Have a good night.
Good job, guys.
Bye.